Or get the skills to work with satellites and other space technology? How about learning the avionics inside stealth fighters? And do you want to reach your goals fast? You can do it and take your life to the next level in the Air National Guard. Because you serve part-time, you do it in a way that works for you. You can achieve your career and educational goals with plenty of time for family and friends. The Air Guard offers nearly 200 career specialties, so you'll get the high-tech skills you need to kick your career into high gear. You can also be eligible for college tuition assistance. The best part is, in the Air Guard, you'll be making a real difference by serving your community and country. So get your future off the ground in the Air National Guard. Call the Alabama Air National Guard at 1-800-TOGOANG or visit goang.com/AL.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What?
No!
Yep, and my dorky dad hat, and I'm gonna do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up.
See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time. What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
So you're giving up? Just like that?
Giving up on what?
On getting an inheritance from a distant relative.
Don't you think if there were a billionaire in the family, we'd know about it by now?
Listen to me. We are one phone call away from riding horses on our own private polo grounds. One call from christening yachts, having a butler, using summer as a verb.
How do you figure?
Look, everyone's got a rich uncle somewhere. It's statistics. So the best thing you can do is just prepare for the inevitable.
Right, which is why I thought maybe it would be smart to take control of my finances. You know, start using a budget, get out of debt, set some retirement goals.
Budgets? Debt? You watch your mouth. Retirement shouldn't be a goal for us. It should be a way of life.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
The following is a production of WEGL 91.1 FM.
That ball is gone! It's a walk-off home run for Stephen Williams!
WEGL Sports.
The Tigers are headed to the College World Series!
Where every
Lewis is gonna score! Touchdown Auburn! Touchdown Auburn!
game
They're not gonna keep him off the field tonight! Holy cow!
lives. It's now time for the Extra Point. Auburn's best sports talk personalities on Auburn's best station.
We the North are now we the champions. The Raptors, the 2019 NBA champs.
Auburn's most watched sports TV show, Auburn's best sports talk radio show.
Lillard, long range three, and it's good! At the buzzer! Damian Lillard! Are you kidding me?
Call in at 334-844-9345 to join the debate.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there, and way out of here! Second deck walk-off home run! Grand slam, Bryce Harper!
Lock in. The Extra Point starts now on WEGL Radio and Eagle Eye TV. Presented by WEGL Sports, where every game lives.
Here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come.
Last night we saw history in what might be the last primetime game inside Oakland Coliseum for the Oakland Raiders. Hello everybody, welcome to Extra Point here on WEGL 91.1 and Eagle Eye TV. As always, Jared Dillard, your host, and joining me in the studio from left to right is Andy Hill and Javon Cutler and Jack Hart. Andy, we will start with you on this Friday, chilly morning in the 50s. It's going to stay in the 50s all day. So hopefully everybody's bundling up. If you already left and don't have a coat, well, you may need to go buy one. Andy, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Jared. Like you said, it's cold now, and I had to bring out the North Face jacket as this is probably my warmest jacket that I have. So it's definitely getting a lot colder. But hey, glad for a little bit chillier weather compared to 100 degrees.
Sounds good. Javon, decked out in the red and black, throwback Falcons cap on. Falcons back from their bye week. Who did the Falcons play this week?
They play the Saints, unfortunately.
Oh, never mind. I'm
sorry. It's in New Orleans too, so it's not gonna be pretty.
Other than the bad part, how's everything else going?
It's going all right, Jared. I mean, it's been a pretty long week. I'm glad it's Friday. I'm definitely ready for tomorrow to watch some football. Probably gonna be on the couch most of tomorrow watching noon games, of course, 2:30 big game, Alabama, LSU, and just football in general. But other than that, I'm doing great, Jared.
And last but not least is Jack Hart. Jack, you survived the week. But other than that, how's it treated you?
Yeah, this week probably could have ended on Monday for me, and I would have been fine with that. So, yeah, made it through the week. Also breaking out the fleece for this chilly weather, matching with Andy today. So, ready to get into this weekend, and hopefully watch some exciting sports games.
Remember, if you want to call in, you can at 334-844-9345. That is 334-844-9345. Or leave a comment on the Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube live stream if you want to watch the show, and we will answer it live on the show. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into it. Kind of open it up with it already, but let's go ahead and let's talk Thursday night football. The Oakland Raiders, not only are they now 5-4 on the season, watch out, but that may have been the last game on primetime that we see of the Oakland Raiders as they get ready for their move to Las Vegas. Yeah, it doesn't sound the best, and every time I look at the upcoming draft boards and draft order, I keep seeing Las Vegas Raiders, and it looks weird, right? But it is what it is, and the Raiders got a big win over the Chargers last night by a score of 26-24. So let's open up with that. What are the impressions of the Raiders? They're 5-4. John Gruden is getting the swag back, apparently, in Oakland. How impressed are you with the Raiders so far?
I'd say I'm pretty impressed with the Raiders. I mean, they're doing it especially behind a rookie running back in Josh Jacobs, who, of course, everybody in this state is all familiar with him as he did some great work at Alabama, but he's having a great rookie season. I'd say he's among the best rookies in the league, candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And it just seems like they've been really relying upon him because Derek Carr is having a solid season, but it's not an MVP-like season like he had a few years ago. So I think the Raiders are moving along the right direction, and people who were chastising John Gruden last year for the moves he's made and trade away your two best players in Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and having sole reign possession of the team, I think the Raiders are doing it the right way. I mean, they still have a lot of young talent on this roster, got a solid running back. Like I said, Derek Carr is a proven NFL quarterback. I mean, he's not great, but he could get the job done. So the Raiders are moving in the right direction, I think, and John Gruden's finally putting an imprint of his type of football on this Oakland team, and nobody would have thought they'd be 5-4 at this point in the season because when you lose a player like Antonio Brown, you would have figured that your season would be kind of in the tank because he's the true number one receiver, and Oakland right now doesn't really have a true number one. They just kind of have a collection of guys, and Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfro's been stepping up a lot lately, got a solid tight end, and Waller. So I think the Raiders, with this subtraction of Antonio Brown, have actually added to their, I'd say, team chemistry, and it's working out for the better for the Raiders, at least for right now.
Yeah, I think the name of the game last night was Josh Jacobs for this Raiders team. He was getting so many yards after contact, even with that great defensive front that the Chargers had. I mean, they were hitting him at the line of scrimmage, but he was just fighting and battling his way for 5-6 yards on every carry and just moving the Raiders down the field. And another thing last night that was huge was that Raiders defense, that Raiders secondary. They had only had, I believe, 8 turnovers in their first 7 games, but they opened up the last night with 2 big turnovers off of Phillip Rivers' interceptions that both led to points, putting them up 10-0 from Jump Street there in the first quarter. So that was big for this Raiders team. And yeah, I mean, when I think about the Raiders, I don't think about a contender in the AFC at all, but there they are. They're the first team looking into the playoff picture right now, barring what happens this weekend. So they've definitely been a sneaky team. They've found a way to win. They've done just enough, and they're definitely not out of it, despite what anyone says.
Here's a little tidbit for you guys. So our Auburn alumni, Daniel Carlson, had not missed a field goal or extra point, actually, in his Auburn or NFL career. He made 247 out of 247 kicks until that extra point that he missed last night.
You hate to see it. But the important thing is it wasn't for a game winner. That's the important thing. And the Chargers did not drive back down the field and get a field goal, so Daniel Carlson will take it. And he's done pretty well ever since being cut from the Vikings, finding his spot in what will soon be Las Vegas, and hopefully he'll keep tearing it up in the NFL. But for the Raiders, they moved to 5-4. The Chargers are 4-6. Phillip Rivers threw 3 interceptions. And for a guy that's kind of getting up there in age, I'm not about to say that he's done for, but that was a very un-Phillip Rivers-like game that he played against Oakland, even though it was on the road. And the Chargers are just kind of just limping right now to whatever finish line they can find, if they even make it there at this point.
Yeah, I'll say that one of those interceptions wasn't his fault when Hunter Henry fell down and the DB was wide open to catch that interception, but those other 2 were pretty unforgivable. So, I mean, you can get away with 1 or 2 if you're Phillip Rivers, but for a quarterback with that much talent, I just don't know how this offense is helping him out, why it's putting him in such bad situations, and why the progression and reads are the way that they are that are forcing him to throw these interceptions like this. Very uncharacteristic of Rivers this year.
Yeah, he hasn't had the best of times, I guess you could say. But some other NFL news. I don't know, were you guys on Twitter yesterday when the whole Antonio Brown thing was happening? I'm not going to read back what he said because obviously I love my job here and I don't want to get fired. But as you can imagine, it was a rant against the NFL, pretty much telling them to, mind your business or I'm done with you, things like that. And he backtracked on it. That the first tweet was, I'm done with the NFL. I really don't care. And now he is determined to play is what he's saying now. I mean, when you think this Antonio Brown stuff it died down. It seemed like it was ages ago, too. It seemed like the same time this Antonio Brown stuff was happening, we still had a pretty good feeling that Auburn was going to reach the college football playoffs. And then now, fast forward what seems to be 10 years, and none of that's true anymore. What do you got about this Antonio Brown situation right now?
I mean, I hope he would backtrack because he's scheduled to meet with NFL investigators next week. So why would you have that type of tweet and then still meet with the NFL? They're obviously not going to like what you said. So you have to kind of get back into somewhat good graces with the NFL before you meet with them. But I still don't know what's up with Antonio Brown. Seems like he's a really moody person lately. Like one day he says, I don't want to play in the NFL anymore. The next day it's like, I still want to play. Like I'm still training and all this stuff, but all I say is he just needs to have somebody, I'd say, check his Twitter or just have a positive influence in his life to do something, because it seems like the friends he has are probably only with him could be for his money or just to kind of have that clout and that kind of understanding that, hey, it's Antonio Brown. We could be friends with him and we could all be yes men. So I think that he needs to surround himself with better friends to let him know, like, hey, don't say this because it could ruin your reputation in the NFL even further. And I guess currently when Antonio Brown's state right now, he just needs to focus on school. Like, do your homework, man. Don't get on Twitter and all this type of stuff. So
I think Twitter is showing me that English class isn't really sticking with them right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's failing English right now. So it's unfortunate. You hate to see it, but Antonio Brown seriously needs to stop kind of being this wishy-washy type person and just be on one side and stick with that side, and we'll see what happens with the NFL investigators and Antonio Brown next week.
Here's something else that's happening. Y'all saw that black cat on Monday Night Football? It's still on the loose, and we can't find it. So black cat showed up on the field between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, and they haven't caught it yet. So I'm really wondering if this cat is just going to be a theme that just keeps running, and it somehow ends up in the Super Bowl.
Well, my thing is it's funny because it's like the two of the worst teams in the league. So I feel like the black cat is just a sign of the Jets and Giants seasons.
That could be true, especially because they play this weekend. If that cat shows up at the game, then it is a sign.
It's seriously, if that cat walks out of the tunnel, it's a true sign of
it's Eli Manning's career.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
It's a true sign of how the Jets and Giants are playing right now.
I mean, it's just one of those things. It's one of those weird things, like the Cardinals, the baseball Cardinals, and the Raleigh Squirrel. They came onto the field, and the Cardinals rallied after that. And Raleigh Squirrel's a thing now. Now, I don't know if the Giants are going to make this a thing, right, with this black cat. And it's way past Halloween, so I have no idea what this cat's doing anymore. I have no idea how the cat even slips out, and they can't even find it. I mean, there are how many people on the side of this stadium, and how many security, and how many staff, and nobody know where this cat went? I mean, where's it at? Is the cat calling plays or something? Like, honestly, ridiculous. With that being said, we got to head to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have a little bit of sports on the other side, obviously. We'll be talking the NFL, getting into the weekend games, and some big storylines in those games. You're watching and listening to Extra Point here on WEGL 91.1 and Eagle Eye TV.
Would you rescue me? Would you get my back? Would you take my car when I start to crack? Would you rescue me? Would you rescue me? Would you rescue me when I'm by myself? When I need your love, if I need your help, would you rescue me? Would you rescue me?
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
El que San Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we going to do this? When St. Jude told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders, and now your focus is supporting this child.
There is not another hospital like St. Jude. The patient care is unmatchable. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. I help people solve difficult and trying personal problems every day on my TV show, but there's one problem that's just got me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. That's 1 in 5 kids who may not know where their next meal is coming from, despite the fact that there's more than enough healthy, nutritious food out there to feed them all. Now, I don't know about you, but that is unacceptable to me. Luckily, the Feeding America network of good people is out there collecting surplus food and giving hope to hungry children and their families at local food banks all across the country. But let's face it, they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. Hit 'em up, huh? Get 'em up, huh? Put 'em up, huh? We waking up high with my
And welcome back to Extra Point here on WGO 911 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dillon, and joining me in the studio is Andy Hewling, Javon Cutler, and Jack Hart. Through the first 15 minutes, opened up with the NFL, Thursday Night Football, and then we'll get into games for the rest of Sunday. So if you want to call in, you can at 334-844-9345. That is 334-844-9345 to talk about some NFL football. Or on top of that, you want to ask a question in the live stream by going to Facebook, Periscope /Twitter, or YouTube. Ask a question in the live stream there. It'll come through here in the studio, and we'll answer it live on the show. Let's get into this weekend. Man, I don't know if I see a lot of good games this weekend. Kind of a dud. I mean, the late games should be pretty fun. I mean, let's see. At 3:25, we got Panthers-Packers. That should be fun.
Yeah.
We got Rams-Steelers. Steelers getting a little bit better. And we have Minnesota-Dallas. Sunday Night Football, obviously, because it is Dallas. And Monday Night Football, Seattle and San Francisco. So the late games will be fun. The only other late game, which I did not even notice, got moved to 3:05. I don't know if it was always 3:05. My Indianapolis Colts playing the Miami Dolphins. That'll be good for me. But other than that, I'm not really sure I'm excited for any other games this upcoming weekend. The one winless team left, the Cincinnati Bengals, are playing the Baltimore Ravens. That will not end well for them. What is the game that you guys are looking forward to?
I'm kind of looking forward to that Rams-Steelers game. I think that'll be a good test for the Rams going into Heinz Field and see where the Steelers are right now as they're trying to make a resurgence at 4-4 and get in the winning record column. So we'll see what happens in that game, but I look forward to that game.
I'd say Seahawks 49ers because it seems like that's the best Monday Night Football matchup we've had in forever, and we'll finally get to see another test for the 49ers to see if they are legit as far as beating an elite team in the NFC. And this helps that they're playing an NFC West rival in Seattle, who's been a solid team for the past 6 years, and 49ers are still on the come up. And I think the 49ers are going to win this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if this game goes down to the wire and Seattle is able to kind of pull some tricks out of its hat, as Russell Wilson is prone to do at times. But I think this will be a great test for the 49ers defense, and if the 49ers win this, I think for sure they're going to win the NFC West and be on their way to get that top 2 seed, possibly the number 1 seed in all of the NFC. But I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, kind of Kyle Shanahan go against a Seahawks team that's been struggling defensively as well, because the Seahawks aren't as strong as they were in the past. I mean, they're prone to give up big plays at times, and they're just not looking as stout. But this game is going to be a fun one to watch on Monday Night Football.
Jack, is there a game that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm super excited for my Panthers game this weekend because it's against one of the top teams in the NFC who had a down week last week. I mean, they looked pretty bad against the Chargers, and I'm looking to see whether or not the Packers can bounce back at home or whether or not the Panthers can kind of take them to task and kind of expose this defense that hasn't been the strong suit of Green Bay so far. My dad is actually going on a business trip to Milwaukee that weekend, so he'll be going to the game, so I hope to get some pretty cool pictures out of that. So looking forward to that game for a number of reasons, and excited to see whether or not my Panthers can put it together.
Make sure that you tell them to get a selfie with future MVP Kyle Allen.
It's a tall task, but I'll get on it.
I think one important thing to keep in mind for this weekend is that talk about the Seattle-San Francisco game. That game has big ramifications because in my humble sports opinion, take it or leave it, if the 49ers win that game, they won the division at that point. That means the 49ers would have already beaten all 3 of their division teams, Arizona, LA, and Seattle. They would still be undefeated, and you're telling me the 49ers, who would then be 9-0 at that point, would drop 3 of the next 7 games to those 3 teams and then be tied with them? Right? And here's my thing, and this may be a little bit of a hot take. Seattle's not as good as their record says. I know they're 7-2, but if you look at their last games, they played close against teams that should have blown out. I mean, they went to overtime against the Buccaneers. And give the Buccaneers their credit where it's due. The Buccaneers are a very scrappy team that can put up a lot of points when they need to. But the Seahawks should beat the brakes off the Buccaneers. The Seahawks need to beat the brakes off the Browns, and they didn't do that. The Seahawks won by 1 against the Rams, which I guess still is a good win. But Russell Wilson is dragging this team, this dead carcass, across the finish line in the NFC West. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that against San Francisco on Monday Night Football, especially with that game being in San Francisco. I mean, there's a reason why Vegas has the 49ers as a 6-point favorite. I mean, is that fair?
I will agree with you that the Seahawks aren't up to the task of their record. I think Russell Wilson has maybe added 3 wins to that schedule that probably wouldn't have been there, kind of a wins above replacement type situation. And I think, yes, but that Bucs game was case in point because I was watching that game on Sunday. A friend of mine had Russell Wilson on his fantasy team. We were seeing if he could crack 40 points, which he ended up doing. So we were watching that game back and forth, and I was just shocked that the Seahawks kept giving up points to that Bucs team. Like this Seahawks defense that it's not the LOB it used to be, but it still has a lot of guys on it. And I'm just wondering at what point the defensive ineptitude is going to outpace the scoring potential of Russell Wilson. And all it's going to take for Russell Wilson to have one bad game, and the Seahawks are really without an identity on offense, and their defense is not going to pick up the pieces anytime soon.
Yeah, kind of going off what you just said, I feel like with the Seahawks, it's kind of a Russell Wilson factor where he helps them get big wins like that. And I think that's the only reason right now the line is the way it is, that the 49ers aren't favored by more. It's just because you've got a playmaker and a great quarterback like him who can make a play when his team needs it. But I feel like in the long run, the Seahawks don't need that. They need everyone contributing and not just their quarterback.
Here's a question that I want to ask on a Friday as we get into NFL Sunday weekend. Does the NFL have a officiating problem?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Now, that was a very broad and vague question, so I'll put it like this. Has the NFL officiating taking a drastic hit where we see a lot of wishy-washy calls? We know the big thing this year was changing the rule for pass interference, and it feels like we still don't know what the rule is, right? We see these coaches challenging these plays, and we don't know what pass interference is anymore. It feels like, right? I go back to the Sunday Night Football game when I was watching my Colts take on the Chiefs, and T.Y. Hilton got charged or got flagged for offensive pass interference, where he literally ran and stood in front of the defensive player, did not even touch him. The defensive player ran into him, and he got called for offensive pass interference. And the head coach threw the flag, and it still came back as pass interference. There's a lot of calls like that are happening where we think, oh, yeah, that's pass interference. And then, no, it wasn't. It wasn't at all.
There's just no consistency. I mean, we've gone through the phases of what the heck is a catch, what the heck is hands to the face, what the heck is roughing the passer. I mean, the officiating has had their problems for, I think, the past 3 years or so is when it's really come to a head of just inconsistency. That's the biggest thing. I think you can't coach around inconsistency. If you know what they're going to call, then yeah, you can try to make a game plan around it. But if it's just up in the air, no consistency to it, and I don't think the challenging on pass interference has helped at all, honestly. Considering looking at the numbers of what percentage has been overturned, how much that slows down the momentum of the game, and how much that changes the calculus if you are a coach, when to pull your challenge flag. I don't like that ruling at all, and I understand why it was put in, but I don't think it was put in for a good reason.
You know, I think a lot of it is the NFL's been under a close watch with officiating ever since the Saints and Rams incident in the NFC Championship. I don't think people would have taken notice like this if that hadn't happened. And I think more and more people are starting to see some of these calls. And like Jack said, there's a lot of inconsistency. So I think the NFL needs to clean up some of the, the stuff that happens in games and just like make clear what a call is, so that way coaches can coach their players not to do the things that they're going to give them penalties.
I think the biggest thing is that some people feel as though the officiating, they're not held accountable if they're wrong, right? If we blew the call, the NFL admits it like the next day on Monday or on Tuesday, and that's kind of just it. There's no way to hold them accountable. Like the NBA has the 2-minute report, right? And I don't know if that's holding people accountable, but they admit mistakes. In the last 2 minutes, this should have happened, this should have happened, this should have happened. All the NBA has its own set of problems when it comes to officiating. There's no accountability for wrong calls, it seems like. And that's what's making a lot of players upset. The players are getting upset too, which that means this is going to come back to that CBA that they're going to have to go through the next couple of years, right? Because remember, the collective bargaining agreement is coming up soon. And salary, officiating is probably going to be in there. Different suspension policies are probably going to be in there. This is going to be a big sticking point. And the NFL is going to have to figure out what they're going to do in that situation. With that being said, we got to head to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we will have a little bit of college football, as there was some news this morning about Heisman hopeful defensive end Chase Young and some trouble in Ohio State. You're watching and listening to Extra Point here on WGL 911 and Eagle Eye TV.
Not for the night. 767, man, this shit got double bedroom, man. I still got scores to settle, man. I crept down the block, made a right, yeah. Cut the lights, yeah. Pay the price, yeah.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole, or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Hold up! Whoa, 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 whoa! Get out the way, get out the way, get out the way, yeah! Yeah! Get out the way, get the up on my way, yeah!
You know, there's a reason why teams never want to be number one when the first college football playoff ranking comes out, because usually that means something is amiss and doom is around the corner. Welcome back to that Extra Point here on WGL 911 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dodd joining me in the studio is Andy Hill and Javon Cutler and Jack Hart. As we get into college football, if you want to talk college football, you can by calling in at 334-844-9345. That's 334-844-9345. Or you can ask a question in the live stream on Facebook, Twitter /Periscope, or YouTube. It'll come down the studio and we'll answer your question live on the show. Now, going back to that stat, a team that's opened up as number one in the initial college football playoff poll for that year has never won the national championship. That is how weird being number one is when the first poll opens up. So Ohio State is number one. And then days later, Chase Young, who's been in the Heisman race for the nation, this unstoppable defensive end, now will not play this coming Saturday against Maryland. Now, what does this mean? Well, Ohio State will win by 50 instead of 60. That's what that means. But it has bigger implications because apparently Chase Young is being held out because of a potential undisclosed violation of NCAA rules. So this is stemming from what appears to be a loan in 2018. So it kind of goes back to, those violations and all these different rules and stuff like that. I won't say there's not much information on what's going on right now, but the moment that Ohio State found out that there was a problem, they immediately were like pulling him out. That's kind of the big thing, because we know what the NCAA did with USC and Reggie Bush when they found out. That doesn't exist anymore, as far as we know, right? That's scrubbed from the book. So that's Ohio State being precautionary in that situation. Any comments on that story?
I mean, I think you have to be precautionary as far as this type of thing. And Young even admitted it. He wasn't trying to sugarcoat it. He was like, yeah, I accepted a loan from a family friend. And he's trying to work with Ohio State and the NCAA to play again, according to this ESPN article. So he owns up to his mistake. He realizes that he did it. And Ohio State, I think, did a good job by taking precautionary measures. And they're just playing Maryland. I mean, it's not like he was going to have a huge difference in that game. He probably would have gotten 3-4 sacks. And like you said, Jared, Maryland probably would have gotten blown out by 60. Now it's only going to be by 50. But I think this is a good precautionary measure, and it just shows you kind of how picky the NCAA is as far as players accepting anything, because a player could even get in trouble for accepting a $5 meal from McDonald's. So it's just kind of picky how the NCAA is about this, and it just seems like it was a one-time thing. It wasn't a continuous type of loan transfer to Chase Young. But I understand what Ohio State and the NCAA are doing, and hopefully he'll be back on the field in the next game or two.
Yeah. Hopefully this isn't a big issue where we see a lot of different things happening and people get suspended and stuff like that. Also in college football, USC has a new athletic director. But the first question that they asked his athletic director is, well, what's going on with Clay Helton? Does Clay Helton still have a job? They're just poking him. Well, I mean, look, I know USC is not in the best of positions right now when it comes to athletics in general. They've been struggling. USC has been struggling on the athletic front. I mean, name me a good USC sport.
They're good at the California sports, water polo and beach volleyball.
Maybe. I wouldn't know. That's pretty much it.
I think they're pretty good at soccer. I believe they're a pretty stout soccer team.
It's funny enough, Auburn women's soccer did play USC a couple years ago. They lost in USC, so they are pretty good at that. It is Mike Bones, who came from Cincinnati. It was an introductory press conference not too long ago, and pretty much, I mean, they just asked him straight out, what is Clay Helton's job security? Will he be the coach for much longer, and things like that? And USC is such a prestigious job, and you don't want to pull the plug too early. But for USC, I mean, clock's ticking, and they got to figure that out. The clock is also ticking for Florida State, as they're now just trying to find a new coach that can take over and rebuild that historic program back to where it was. And while there's a long list of names, there's one name that's no longer on there. That's Butch Jones. He pulled his own name and said, maybe I don't want that. Can you imagine Butch Jones coming back to the world of head coaching?
No, I cannot.
I mean, it's just one of those things where you look at all these openings that are going to happen, and you look at all these potential candidates, and you just, wow, is that really going to be the fit, right? I think the only coach that really fits his geographical location is Ed Orgeron. That's just kind of how that works. And it's funny enough because USC is probably kicking themselves right now like, we let this guy get away.
Mm-hmm.
And now look where he's at. He's taken LSU to the promised land pretty much. And USC just got blown out by Oregon by X amount of points. and they don't know how they feel about themselves. With that being said, the big game this weekend is obviously number 2 LSU versus number 3 Alabama. For all intents and purposes, this game will decide who was going as the SEC West representative. Barring crazy stuff happening, right? This is the winner plays Georgia in the SEC championship game when it's all said and done. Let's just break down this game and what's kind of the strengths and weaknesses of both teams. Andy, we'll start with you.
Well, I think LSU, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, has really, set themselves apart from previous seasons where they weren't really stable at the quarterback role. They didn't have the receivers. But this year, Joe Burrow is probably one of their best quarterbacks we've seen in such a long time at the LSU program. And then their wide receivers are so dangerous. You've got Justin Jefferson. You've got so many other guys, Jamal Chase. I mean, it's a great combo. But I feel like Alabama just matches them stride for stride on the offensive side of the ball because you've got Tua, who more than likely will play Saturday, according to Nick Saban, that he is progressing. And he will most likely play, but he's got receivers too. Devontae Smith, he's got Ruggs, he's got Waddle. I mean, it's going to be quite an offensive game, but I'd look at the defensive side of the ball, and I think Alabama has a little bit of an advantage there because, LSU's defense is good, don't get me wrong, but just because they're playing in Tuscaloosa, they have the home crowd to get behind them. And Alabama does have some holes in their defense. Obviously, a lot of young guys who are having to step up after Dylan Moses getting hurt and just a lot of freshmen also learning the system. So I think, though, Alabama's defense has an advantage, and if they can use the crowd noise and the atmosphere to their, to their help, I think they can come out with the win. But we'll see how Joe Burrow and the LSU team respond.
Javon, what about you?
Yeah, this game is going to come down to more of the offenses than the defenses because both teams in the past have had traditionally strong defenses, but this year, despite those points allowed per game, they're not looking as strong as they have in the past, so their offenses have really had to step up, especially LSU, who's traditionally not been known for having a strong offense, especially at the quarterback position, but this year, Burrow's taken them to another level, so it'll be interesting to see how both of these offenses kind of clash with one another. And the defense's underrated story for LSU is their best defensive player left the team in terms of their sack leaders. Nobody's really talked about that much, so I don't know if they're going to have much of a pass rush against Tua because we all know Tua's coming off that injury with his ankles, and I'd imagine LSU is going to try to aim low at Tua and try to make him scramble around and make him feel uncomfortable in that pocket. So we'll see what LSU could do as far as a pass rush by them lacking their best player. But I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch. I can see this one being tight throughout the game. Could come down to a few key defensive stops in the fourth quarter. Could go either way, but I'm expecting a really fun game. And it's a shame this game isn't at 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. here in Central Time because that would just feel more right than a 2:30 game between number 2 and number 3. But nonetheless, it should be a fun game to watch, and we'll see if LSU gets revenge after getting blown out and shut out at home last year.
Yeah, I think LSU's eyes are thankful it's not a night game, so they can't turn on the light show at Bryant-Denny. But, yeah, I think this game is going to be Jerry Jeudy versus Grant Delpit all afternoon long. That is going to be the matchup. And on a greater scale, the Alabama receivers versus this LSU secondary. Probably the strongest suits of both of these teams, and they're going to be going head-to-head for all 60 minutes. This game is going to be just an absolute air raid. It's going to be 1 on 20, 30-yard passes, breakaways, slants that go for touchdowns. It's going to be an unbelievable passing display as these two great quarterbacks go at it, two great receiving cores, and two pretty good secondaries. Alabama having the edge in the receivers, LSU having the edge in the defensive backs. And, yeah, this game is going to be just a sight to see if you love passing. I'd like to see the running backs get a little action too, but I think the quarterbacks are going to steal the show this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great points about this matchup. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I'm what's what I'm going for? I'm confident in LSU's ability, and I do think they're going to win. especially with this report on Twitter, and I believe it's ESPN's own Peter Burns, where he said, quote, "I watched Tua practice yesterday. He's not 100%. I don't care what Alabama says. He doesn't have that spring in his step. It's not natural. He's okay. I'd be playing if I was him, but he's not the Tua that started the season." And that was Gary Danielson saying that via Peter Burns. So we know that's going to play a factor. And Tua's mobility is part of the reason why he shines so much. But if Tua can't move, that LSU front line, that LSU front seven, especially, I don't care how good your wide receivers are. You're going against 3 good DBs. How does Alabama get around that? How are they going to? And it comes to the point where if Tua can't move around, and there's just this, he just doesn't look good. Do you bring in the backup at that point that maybe give you more mobility and maybe he can still win the game? It's like all these questions for Alabama start to pop up, and you start to wonder, what do they have to do to win this game? They're at home, they got that, but other than that, this offense, we may go out there and watch this game, and this Alabama offense may not be able to move at all because of Tua's injury, which will suck because I would like to see him at full strength going against the LSU team.
Well, one of Tua's best parts of his game is his ability to scramble and get out of the pocket, and he can either throw it or run it himself because he's that good. But you're right, like if he can't move the ball and get out of the pocket, it could be a long day. And I think they should consider, if he struggles and is not able to move like everyone thought he could, I think Mack Wilson is definitely a thing they should think about, and maybe second half, early second quarter, if things aren't going right and LSU's really scoring and moving the ball. Alabama's got to do whatever they can to win this game because they know that this is like a pre-playoff game. This is like the playoff into the playoff. So it's a must-win for Alabama, and they have to prove a point tomorrow. And I think Saban should think about doing anything and everything he can to win this game, no matter who's healthy and who's not. He's got to, put the guys on the field who can play and, rest the guys who are maybe a little banged up.
Well, I think that a good game plan to start off initially is just have a bunch of the receivers run slant routes, which it seems like Alabama does religiously this season, and that would help Tua because he gets the ball out fast. He doesn't have to worry about scrambling. He can stay in the pocket, and I'm sure the offensive line has enough time to kind of buy for Tua to just kind of throw a slant pass to Ruggs or Smith or whoever, and I think that would help a lot. And I don't know how much LSU will be able to play man as far as that, because obviously you can't play zone effectively on slants. So I think it would be a big test for LSU to play man coverage on that side. But for Alabama and Tua's health, I think if you just have a lot of short passes, not a lot of long developing routes, then Tua could at least maintain some type of health heading longer into the game. Because if you just have a bunch of like fly routes and longer developing routes, then Tua is more prone to being hit. But short routes, I think, are the way to go, at least initially for the start of this game.
Yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and go to a quick commercial break. That one, we can come back. We can talk about this news, I guess, is what we want to call it, that there is somebody that has merged as a candidate for the Florida State job. But I don't think it is who you think it is. With that being said, we'll talk about that on the other side of this break. You're watching and listening to Extra Point here on WEGL 911 and Eagle Eye TV.
We can take this outside. Looking at the stars, staring in my mouth.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home walk restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet. Fingerling. Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Extra Point here on WGL 911 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dillon joining me in the studio is Andy Hewling, Javon Cutler, and Jack Hart. About 7 minutes to go until we get to the top of the hour. Just want to talk about this Florida State candidate that emerged. And you could throw a lot of names out there. You can throw your Lane Kiffins. You can throw your, Justin Fuentes or maybe Gus Malzahn's. But for those of you who had Deion Sanders in your office pool, you won because that's who it is. Former NFL player Deion Sanders, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if he has any coaching experience. Does he?
I know for sure right now he coaches his son's high school football team in Dallas, and he's been doing pretty good, I think, as far as that. I think he has a state title or 2 or something like that.
Oh, so yeah, he got a couple of rings under his belt. But that's pretty much it. And he's emerged as a candidate, not front runner or anything like that, just somebody who's popped up on the radar. That's currently what Florida State's going through. And honestly, look, sure, I love me some Deion Sanders. That would be a bad hire if Florida State did that. I mean, maybe they know something that I don't. Maybe they see something that, man, he's going to bring the spark back. I will say that bringing Deion Sanders in will probably get you some recruits. I mean, people love Deion Sanders. But would he put the right people around him to succeed? I'm not actually sure. But, with that being said, that's kind of the big storyline for Florida State right now. And they're just trying to go along with the rest of the season. They just want the season to end pretty much at this point and just get on to any other sport that could give them a resemblance of consistency. Because Florida State has not been it. Florida State football has really hit a bottom of the barrel type of thing in the last couple of years, and it's really hard to see.
I mean, to be optimistic and to kind of, I guess, translate it to another sport, I think about the transformation of Memphis this year, Memphis basketball, because they went out and hired a former alumni in Penny Hardaway, and Penny was able to bring in the number 1 recruiting class. He got a bunch of top recruits to come to Memphis, and they look like they have a pretty strong squad. So I think Florida State might be looking at that kind of equation and saying, hey, we have Deion Sanders. He's a famous alumni here. He was a great defensive back, kick returner, whatever. Maybe he could bring in, because of his name, some top
Yeah.
recruits, especially defensively. I mean, he could probably bring in the top cornerbacks for sure in the country and have them play. And then, like you said, Jared, try to hire the right people around him as far as like an offensive-minded play or coordinator, of course, and some veteran coaches. And there might be a chance that it might work out. I'm not saying Florida State's going to get the number one recruiting class, obviously, but they could try to pull in, I'd say, a top 10, top 15 recruiting class alone just based off of Deion Sanders' name, the Florida State brand, and the history of Seminole football, which they have been pretty successful in the past 30 years or so, kind of disregarded in the last 2 years.
Did Penny Hardaway have coaching experience before he went to Memphis, though?
It's similar to Deion. I think Penny was like the AAU coach or something in the Memphis area. So that's
Gotcha.
and he coached some of these guys that currently play for him. So he could kind of lure, I guess, them to come to Memphis that way.
I felt like there's a bigger gap between high school football and college than AAU. And, well, no, I guess the gap is the same. I don't know. AAU just is different than high school football when you think about it. It's like a private league that's not through high schools, pretty much. But any other comments on Florida State's head coaching search as they continue to bounce along with it? There's not much we can really say about it.
Yeah, I mean, this just makes me like be glad Auburn has a serviceable coach at the moment, because I do not want to be cast into the abyss of who's our next coach going to be anytime soon.
Yeah,
'Cause the candidates out there is slim pickings.
Look, here's the thing. Auburn, we can complain all we want. If the fan base wants to complain, they can complain. But the great thing is Auburn's not in the position that Florida State's in. Auburn's not in the position that, name another school that's high in prestige, USC's in, right? Auburn's doing better than USC. Auburn's doing better than Florida State. Auburn's doing better than, well, Stanford's just having a down year. I don't know what's going on at Stanford and David Shaw. But Auburn's not in that position, and thank God for that. Thank God for Alan Green. Thank God for, Gus Malzahn and just keeping consistency at least on the win-loss records. Could we get some bigger wins? Sure, but I'll take this for right now. It could look. I know we don't like to bring it up, but there are years that we don't talk about, like your 2012s, that could happen again if things go wrong for Auburn. Any other thing before we get out of here for the so we can enter the top of the second hour? Any last tidbits?
Excited for the basketball game tonight between Auburn and Davidson in Annapolis, Maryland. Should be a good time for basketball fans, especially Auburn playing the Davidson Wildcats, who are always known for having a good team, strong program with names like Steph Curry coming out of there. So it's going to be a good time to watch some basketball. Hopefully Auburn will come out and learn from the first game about just turning the ball over, performing well on offense, because they did look a little sluggish at times. But hopefully Bruce Pearl and the team will clean that up tonight and get a win against a good Davidson team.
Yeah, for Auburn, we'll be talking about their game against Davidson in the second hour as well as we get ready for that. It should be a fun one as the Tigers back in action Friday night. It should be a doozy. With that being said, thank you, Jack Hart and Andy Hewling, for joining me on the show, at least in this first hour. Javon, I know you're sticking around for the second hour. Jack, I think you're sticking around in some capacity. I'm not sure. We haven't really talked about the second hour at all, really. So
Tune in for a surprise.
I don't know, because I know Devin's sitting back there. I know Bay and Jacob are back here. I have no idea what's going on.
A lot of arms warming up in the pen.
We got some lefties, we got some righties. Y'all could walk in here and jump me for all I know, because y'all are getting some numbers on your side, and I don't like this. But with that being said, we're going to head to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more of the Extra Point in about 5 minutes. You're watching and listening to the Extra Point here on WEGL 91.1 and Eagle Eye TV.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B. Console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is gonna happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C. Take charge.
Gotta get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D. Help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape? You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel? Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Alabama did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
This message presented by the Alabama High School Athletic Association and the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association.
Come on, Dad. I'm running circles around you.
I know, sweetie. Dad's not very fast these days.
What about yesterday? Were you fast yesterday?
No, not...
Or the day before that?
I was...
Or the day before that?
Actually, I wasn't ever really fast. Hard to believe, I know.
Kids are special. Let's treat them that way.
That's okay. When I was little, I wasn't fast either. Now I'm fast, so you'll be fast tomorrow. That's how it works. Now come on.
At St. Baldrick's Foundation, we want kids to be kids, not just during trips to the park, but when they need us most, when they need help fighting cancer. That's why the advanced research we fund is specifically designed to help children.
I'm pooped after all this.
Dad, you're supposed to do that in the bathroom.
Support St. Baldrick's and childhood cancer research today by going to stbaldricks.org and getting involved.
Making it green is making sure the air in your home is healthy for your family to breathe. Make sure you test your home for the presence of radon. It's easy. To learn more, call 866-730-GREEN. Preserve your family's health and well-being. Get your home tested. That's living healthy and green. Make sure you test your home for the presence of radon. It's easy. To learn more, call 866-730-GREEN.
A message from the U.S. EPA.
The following is the production of WEGL 91.1 FM.
That ball is gone! It's a walk-off home run for Stephen Williams!
WEGL Sports.
The Tigers are headed to the College World Series.
Where every
Lewis is going to score. Touchdown, Auburn. Touchdown, Auburn.
game
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight. Holy cow.
lives. And welcome back inside the Extra Point here on WEG 911 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dillard, and joining me in the studio is Javon Cutler. But also, for the third time this week, we're flipping it on. It's a scoreboard of Bay Marks and Jacob Hillman. Bay, we will start with you. How you doing on this fine Friday, chilly morning?
I'm doing great, Jared. Glad to be a part of the Extra Point once again. So thank you for having me on as always. And quick shout out, good luck to the Helena Huskies tonight. I'm heading home to watch the first round of the playoffs at Helena High School for my little brother Riley Marks. One last ride, and hopefully it ends up back here in Auburn, Alabama in the 6A state championship, but got to play it 1 week at a time. They're playing a tough opponent tonight, so we'll see how that goes.
Who they playing?
Clay Chalkville out of Region 5, I believe. And that's a stacked region with Oxford, Gardendale, Pensacola Valley, where Bo Nix came from, and then Clay Chalkville, who's a supreme powerhouse historically. So tough matchup on the hilltop tonight, but pulling for my little brother, and good luck to my father, Keith Marks, who's the the PA announcer.
Up next is Jacob Hillman. Jacob, are you grumpy this morning?
A little bit. Still haven't gotten sleep. But you mentioned how it's chilly today. Enjoy today because on Tuesday it's supposed to be like 30 degrees with 25-mile-per-hour winds. So you're going to have to break out.
That's what I like to hear, actually.
You're going to have to break out the Arctic clothes for that day.
I love the weather updates from Jacob.
You said on Tuesday?
Tuesday.
And at least according to the app right now, there's also going to be rain involved.
That's going to be miserable.
Uh-oh.
I love it.
Sounds like there's not going to be a lot of attendance for class on Tuesday, except for me. I have a test, and I also have to register for classes. That should make for an interesting bus ride down to South Alabama, though.
Are you riding down to South Alabama?
No, I have to test and I have to register for class.
You're saying for everybody else?
Yes, I know Hillman showed interest. I don't know if he's going to end up going.
Probably not.
So
I mean, yeah, I want to win, so no.
It doesn't matter if I'm there. We're losing to South Alabama.
You keep saying that. You're doubling down on it.
I've probably 100 downed on it. I've been predicting this for over a month, Jared. I'm not gonna walk back on it now.
Can't get ahead of ourselves. They got a game tonight.
That is true.
Yep.
So,
gotta take a one.
But you're the one that brought it up, so
sorry.
I will say this. So we were going to get into Auburn versus Davidson, but as all of us probably just saw, ESPN just came out with, or just sent a push notification about this weekend in college basketball, and apparently Auburn is on upset alert. Now, I don't know which game they're talking about, so I'm going to quickly try to scroll through this.
I would imagine it's tonight. I mean, Davidson, I don't think it would be South Alabama just because I don't think they are quite nationally recognized. I think John Rothstein's the one guy that's really been pushing for South Alabama to be one of these teams that people watch. I'm thinking tonight's going to be the game that they're putting Auburn on upset watch for.
Yeah, so Borzillo, who's a writer on this article, he said, and I'll read it just word for word, quote, "Give me Davidson over Auburn. I had both teams just outside of my preseason top 25, but I think Davidson might be a bit further along in its development. Auburn had to replace 3 starters and a 6th man from last season and was more reliant on interior players than last season in its season opening win over Georgia Southern. Davidson has 2 of the best guards in the country in John Axel Gudmundsson and Kellen Grady." Sorry, that was a big word for me this morning. "And returns all 5 starters from last season, which is a big sticking point for Davidson and South Alabama, that they're returning a lot of starters."
Last night on... Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'll finish and I'll let you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The Wildcats won't have a problem scoring, assuming they take care of the ball, and Auburn just isn't as explosive offensively as last season. Davidson comes out of Friday night with a win that will hold weight on Selection Sunday. Bay, you have something to say?
I was just going to say, we speak of this Davidson team, and you're speaking of them very highly, and for good reason. Last night on Tiger Talk, I was in my car driving, listening to Bruce Pearl on Tiger Talk with Andy Burcham, obviously up at the Naval Academy yesterday, and Andy got a chance to sit down with him. And Mr. Burcham asked him about this game tonight, and Bruce said, well, a lot of teams weren't really wanting to play Davidson. And we said, hey, we'll play them. This is a good team, and Bruce realizes that. He knows that they're going to be a good team this whole season. He wants to play them early. He wants to get a good test early, a good non-con game under that belt for when the postseason comes around. And I think Davidson's going to be a team that's in the tournament this year, so this is going to be a great matchup for Auburn tonight up north a little bit.
This is a quadrant 1 opportunity for Auburn. Whether they win or lose it, so I'm looking at that article now, and 4 guys picked games. 3 guys out of 4 picked Davidson to win tonight, and they all have it pretty close. And I think Auburn will pull it out. I just think that they're possibly a little bit more talented, and now they have the experience and they have the returnees. But I do think Auburn will win tonight. I think it'll be very close. I think it's a very cool experience for them. Everyone's seen the stories from the basketball account the past few days where they've been at the Naval Academy, so that's really cool. But Auburn's got a test for them today. And I think the quadrant 1 thing is the biggest thing to keep an eye on. As long as Davidson stays towards the top and top 25, this game will come a long way for Auburn.
Yeah, it's what Bruce Pearl's been building for the last couple of years, getting this pretty solid, strong non-conference list of opponents. We know a couple of years ago when Auburn beat UConn, that was a big deal for Auburn because we beat, UConn, yeah. And then
Oklahoma was like the next week.
Yeah, Oklahoma the next week. And then, last season, Auburn had a pretty good non-conference, and the SEC is getting better, so that helps out Auburn as well with your Floridas and your LSUs. And usually Alabama was around there as well. You had your A&Ms. You had all these teams getting better. And now Auburn has this big non-conference where you put in South Alabama, you put in Georgia Southern, who are 2 big teams. You put in your Davidsons, right? You're going to have your Big 12 challenge against Iowa State. That should be a good win for Auburn. You have an even stronger SEC. Bruce Pearl likes these schedules because he wants to put the grind. You want to grind this team into a diamond, and that's what he does.
Well, he knows that this is what's going to matter come tournament time, whether it's going to help the team or it's going to help their resume with the committee when they see them. Last year, a lot of people probably thought Auburn deserved a 4 seed instead of a 5 seed, but I think the non-conference schedule was, other than the Maui tournament, it wasn't that great last year. This year, the names, hold on, just 1 second. These teams at first are not big names, but at the end of the year, just wait, and you'll see them at the top of their conferences, I promise you. Georgia Southern, Davidson, South Alabama are going to be at the top of their conferences this year.
You mentioned the fact that it's good for resume building, and I think I'm leaning more towards the fact it's better for the team this year than any other year prior, just for the sole reason that coming off a Final Four season, the first few games are probably going to be shaky as you still have that looming over your head, that hangover, like, well, we have high expectations. And with a team this young, to play teams that are this decent this early, that's huge for chemistry. That's huge for execution. And overall, like Jacob said, the other portion of it, building up that resume, there's no better time to do it now before Christmas, before you get into SEC play, because the SEC is going to be, once again, another deep conference this year. You want to go ahead and get those solid games under your belt now before you hit that gauntlet.
Yeah, it's good to get battle-tested early because if you play a bunch of cupcakes starting off the season, then you could kind of get away with some things such as a bunch of turnovers or poor shooting and probably still blow out a team. But when you're playing quality opponents like a Davidson, who has been a quality team, it seems like for the past decade now, starting with Steph Curry in his reign, then you know you're going to have to kind of hunker down and focus on the finite details and make sure that your passing is crisp, your shooting is efficient, your turnovers are limited. So by playing these type of teams, it's going to help the team, or to help Auburn, focus and realize that they still have the eye on the prize, which is the SEC championship first, then kind of work your way down to the NCAA tournament and see where this team goes. But this strength of schedule that Auburn has assembled for basketball is going to look really great at the end of the season, like everybody said.
Apologies sent out to Jared and Jacob. I've cut both of you off in the first 15 minutes. I don't think I've ever done that. So apologies to both of you. I'm just excited.
No, we're talking about Auburn basketball.
That's true,
of course.
Yeah.
So, no, one other thing I want to add on to what Javon was saying was that early on, it's just one of those things where get through non-conference, not with a ton of losses. If you have one loss to this Davidson team tonight or the South Alabama team, everyone's going to freak out. Now, Davidson, I don't think there would be as much of a freak out as if Auburn lost to South Alabama, because everyone's going to realize, oh, Steph Curry was at Davidson. That means they're a good program. Whereas South Alabama, no one's going to know much about them, but there's no reason to panic. It's the second or third game of the season. I mean, the panic shouldn't ever come in a non-conference because we saw what Auburn did even early in conference play last year. It was not good. They were 2-4 at one point.
Yeah, we started 2-4,
and then they were 7-7 on the bubble against Georgia.
Yeah,
and then went on a run and went to the Final Four.
So
and then we did
see what happens when you get hot in March.
Yeah, we did this cool thing where we won some games and we got to the Final Four or something like that. But with that being said, let's go ahead and let's take a quick commercial break. That way, on the other side of the break when we come back, sorry, I'm getting choked about Auburn basketball. I love this game so much.
It's great.
It's great. But when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to talk Davidson and kind of get to know the foe tonight for the Tigers. You're watching and listening to the Extra Point here on WEGL 91.1 and Eagle Eye TV.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
And welcome back inside Extra Point here on WEGL 9011 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dillard, and joining me in the studio is Bay Mark, Javon Cutler, and Jacob Hillman for tonight's game against Davidson as the Auburn men's basketball team traveled to Indianapolis to take on the Davidson Wildcats. And that game's at what, 6 o'clock Central Time?
Yes, 5 o'clock 5
Central.
o'clock.
5 o'clock Central, 6 Eastern?
Yeah.
All right, so know when to turn on the TV or turn on the radio and listen to Andy Burcham as he gets to call the game for Auburn versus Davidson. That should be a lot of fun. But, well, we know about Auburn, but we don't know about Davidson. So how about we get to know our foe for tonight? The Davidson Wildcats. Well, Jacob, you kind of brought it up during the break. They got this one coach, and he may have been there for a tad bit.
3 decades.
3 decades.
That's a while. He's never coached anywhere else. You know, on the game, it says career record 578, 350, and his record at Davidson is the same because he's only been at Davidson. Bob McKillop, he's been there obviously forever. He recruited Steph Curry to come there. He's been successful in conference. He's won the Conference Coach of the Year 10 times. So that's why he's been around for so long. I mean, they've done okay in some tournaments. They've always snuck in. But I mean, the big thing this year is just that they returned their entire starting lineup.
Yeah.
And 4 of these guys averaged over 10 points per game last year.
Their backcourt's lethal. They both averaged 17 points a game, and John Axel Gudmundsson and Kellen Grady. And another key note to look right here, their starting lineup, everybody's over 6'5".
They're
with
tall.
With a starting point guard for Auburn that just scratches 6 feet. I mean, the rest of Auburn's starting lineup is pretty lengthy with Okoro at 6'5", Samir's around 6'3", 6'4". Then you got D'Angelo at 6'7", and then, Austin. But
I mean,
Auburn will rotate a lot of their 3s and 4s tonight.
The crazy thing is they're all listed as guards, too. So they run this 4-guard lineup. I do think that kind of plays to Auburn's advantage. I think the defense is going to defend against 4 guards a little bit better than they will against a bunch of big guys. So.
They technically do not have a center listed on their team. They're just big old guards and forwards.
The only time these two teams have ever played was on December 27th of 1951, where Auburn leads this all-time series 1-0 with a 66-59 road victory at Davidson.
Hey,
I'm gonna look up who Auburn's coach was back then.
Probably Shug Jordan.
Yeah, probably.
You're probably right. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Look it up. I want to see if I'm right.
Yeah.
Cause what 6 years later, Auburn win his first national championship.
Yeah, and that was right after the Second World War. So I know Jordan was a vet, so I didn't know if he was involved with that or even the Korean War that started getting kicked off around that time-ish. If my history serves me right, but
I don't know. I haven't.
I'm a communications major. I'm not a history major.
Yeah. So some other things for Davidson. Looking at what they call the Wildcat Scratches, which is on their game notes. Looking at their team, I mean, they're big. They know how to score, and their experience. The Wildcats are 17-111 against teams in the top 25. So I guess looking back on it and thinking about it, okay, that makes sense for Davidson, a mid-major that hasn't always been a prowess, and people only know them because of Steph Curry. But still, 17-11 kind of jumped out on the page or on my iPad, so to speak, when I saw that stat. Like, wow, they have a hard time against top 25 teams. The last time they beat a top 25 team was March 11th of 2018 when they beat number 25 Rhode Island in the Atlantic 10 championship game, 58-57.
Yeah, they play Rhode Island, obviously, like I said, in their conference. They'll play similar opponents that Auburn has to play this year, and Vanderbilt, they're an SEC opponent that Auburn could possibly see in the SEC tournament as well. But like you said, this is not any pushover game. It's a historic powerhouse that's come up as of late. 14 NCAA tournament appearances. They have 13 All-Americans, 8 NIT appearances, 3 Elite Eights. I mean, this Davidson team, it's one of those teams where that's the school where their most decent sport. That to us, football is the biggest sport at Auburn. Can we say that's correct? For them, it's basketball. They're one of those schools.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what comes with being in the Atlantic 10.
Yes, they eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. Yeah. Did you find out if Shug Jordan was the coach?
It was not.
Was it accurate? Was it a close guess?
Somewhat. So I didn't realize Coach Jordan didn't coach after World War II.
So he coached basketball before
He
World War
coached from
II.
1933 to 42 and 1945 to 46, and then he gave up coaching basketball and went to football. But it was Joel Eves,
Beard Eves
Coliseum.
Okay, well, that was almost an accurate guess then.
It was his third year as a coach. He coached from 1949 to 1963, so Auburn was just getting started.
He got a win over then powerhouse Davidson.
Yeah. And so Auburn's going to look to keep the series lead, I guess, as they will play on Alumni Hall that, by the way, seats 5,710. So that's almost like going back earlier this week to the Pentagon. That was a nice little fun venue for Wisconsin and St. Mary's to play in. This will be a little bit different. I know we've seen the team on their Twitter account.
Why isn't Auburn playing on a battleship? They're at the Naval Academy.
They did that with Michigan State and
and let's do it again.
Somebody else a few years ago. It was awesome.
Yeah,
you play.
I remember the president was there.
Yeah, Obama was there.
You push the battleship. Oh no, it has to be docked. You don't want to actually move. You dock the battleship.
The waves.
You dock the You should get the gyroscope stuff going on, and it'll be fine. You dock the battleship, and you call it the Battle for Atlantis. I know there's already a Battle for Atlantis, right? But it's not actually in the water. If this is in the water, it has the right to be called the Battle for Atlantis.
If the boat was pushed out in the water and actually moving, it makes me think of a cruise ship. I've been on a cruise one time, and there was a full basketball court. We just played pickup all the time.
Yeah, just get a full, big old cruise ship. If you got to slap NCAA on the side of it just to get some
like
revenue.
Street ball.
Yeah.
You got to adjust for the wind. If it starts raining, you got to go inside.
They do have the Armed Forces Classic again this weekend, but it's in Alaska.
Excuse me?
Alaska?
Who's playing in it?
The 9th Annual Armed Forces Classic will be staged at the Alaska Airlines Center on the University of Alaska Anchorage campus in Anchorage on Friday, November 8th. It's a doubleheader. Baylor against Washington and Alaska Anchorage against Coast Guard Academy. Both games will air on ESPN.
Does Baylor even know how to get to Alaska?
Probably not.
Like Washington, okay, that
Washington,
makes
they
sense.
should drive up the coast.
Yeah, but Baylor, they're gonna get confused. And I guess I forgot that Alaska has colleges.
I mean, the Armed Forces Classic always played in different places. It was played in South Korea, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, on an Air Force or on the battleship, Germany, and Texas, which is kind of boring.
So here's a cool thing. Davidson's head coach, Bob McKillop, is just one of 5 active head coaches with at least 500 wins while only coaching at one school. He's 4th on the list. Number 5 is Mark Few at Gonzaga. He has 10 less wins than McKillop. Number 3, Tom Izzo, Michigan State. Number 2, Greg Campy at Oakland. You probably wasn't going to get that one, but you can probably guess who number 1 is.
Krzyzewski.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
How is Roy Williams not on that list?
It's not Coach K.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, it's not. Ooh, you guys thought you had it.
Coach K doesn't have 500 wins at Duke?
Is it where you said only if they coach at one school?
Krzyzewski coached at another school?
He might have, because I think he coached at like Army or something like that.
He did.
Yeah.
Who's Oklahoma's head coach? For
It's
some
not-
reason, that just pops in.
I don't know. Who cares?
It's not him.
I don't think it's him, no.
You right?
John Wooden.
No.
Dang it.
Just tell us.
Tell us.
instead of us
He's an
looking
active
dumb.
coach.
We don't know.
He's part of a very historic program.
It's not Calipari.
Is
He
that
was
Bill
in
Self?
Memphis.
No.
Okay, what program is it?
They went to the Final Four not too long ago. Maybe in the
Bill
last
Self?
in the last 5 years. No.
Is it the Villanova coach?
No.
Okay, Jared, just tell us.
Yeah, just honestly tell
Ollie
us.
at Connecticut?
No.
No, Ollie's trash.
I know, but I'm just guessing because Jared's just sitting here.
Ollie's been there for like 6 years.
No, he's gone.
Well, he's
I
actually
think
gone now.
I'm about to say, he's still the coach right
Yeah, he
now.
was
No, he's
fired.
gone.
Really? You guys are not going to get this.
God, Jared, just
You're
tell
talking
us.
about historic programs with UNC. It's not Kentucky because John Calipari's been in other places. It's not Duke.
You guys are in the right area.
It's not Kansas.
You talking about geographically or?
Talking about historic programs. Like there was one.
You said Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
Boeheim at Syracuse?
Yes.
That's good.
Oh.
He's number 1. He has 946 wins at Syracuse. Jim Boeheim.
That wasn't very obvious. I don't think Syracuse is that historically good.
I would say they are.
I mean, they're up there, but they're definitely not, with the Kentuckys and
They were in the
Kansases.
Final Four a few years ago. What?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, yeah.
That's when they went as a 10 seed. One of my friends
Yes.
picked them in the bracket to go, and when he made the bracket, I was like, "You're insane." And he's like, "Go Oranges!" And after spring break, he was very hyped.
So Jim Boeheim is number 1 on that list. But we kind of broke it down. We see Davidson and what they're all about. Very tall team. They know how to score. They have a lot of leadership. And here's the thing. They want to beat Auburn, right? They want the signature win to stamp it on their resume because they're going to need it.
For sure. I mean, this game could be the difference between being like a 7 seed and a 10 seed. If they beat Auburn, that's huge to beat a potential SEC top 3 SEC team. I mean, that could get them a 7 seed alone. And if they lose, it might not. It might drop them to an 8 or 9 or 10 seed.
Hey, you want to hear a little bit of a give and take with Davidson? You mentioned it earlier, Jared, about that last win being in 2018 over a top 25 opponent. Yeah. Overall, they're 17 and 111 when playing a ranked opponent, but they are also all-time 74 and 32 in season openers and 16 and 14 under McKillop in season openers.
This is their season opener.
They haven't played yet, which is important.
Which could play a factor for Auburn. Auburn's played 1 game. Davidson has not. Does Davidson come out at least a little bit rusty enough to where Auburn could take advantage of it?
It probably won't be as bad considering they return their entire starting lineup.
Probably won't be as bad. You're right.
There will be some rush, but I don't think it'll be like Auburn, who's constructing a whole new lineup this year.
Yeah. So for Auburn and Davidson, I guess we'll go ahead and who you got tonight, guys?
I mean, I'll pick Auburn and be a homer, but truly, I do think Auburn will win this game. I feel like after getting their first game under their belt, and I think Auburn will win it, especially. Are you stopping me?
No, I was going to wait till you stopped.
Okay, I was just going to say I mean, they have John Axel Goodmanson. He's the only player in school history with 1,000 career points. I mean, it's going to be tough stopping that backcourt. So Javon and Samir and company and Jamal Johnson are going to have to step up defensively. But I think Auburn gets it done. I think it's slim. I think it's probably single-digit game. But give me Auburn starting 2-0.
I was going to ask, give me who wins and by how many points.
I say Auburn by 7 or 8.
Okay. Javon?
I think Auburn's going to win this game, too. I think a key for Auburn is going to be able to stop Kellen Grady because he is kind of like their Steph Curry type of player. I mean, he resembles his game after Steph as far as shooting. He shot about 34% from 3 last year. It's a down year for him considering the year before he shot 37% from 3. So I look for him to be really aggressive and be the focal point of the Davidson offense. So Auburn really needs to kind of hone in on him and make sure he doesn't get his shot off. But I think Auburn is going to bounce back. They did get that kind of somewhat sour taste in their mouth after committing 21 turnovers against Georgia Southern. So if I had to make a prediction, I think Auburn is going to win this game. But I think it's going to be really, really close. I can see Auburn winning this game by perhaps 2 points, maybe 3 points, because Davidson is that dangerous of a team that flies and they fly under the radar. So give me Auburn by 3 points, I'd say.
Yeah, that's pretty much my prediction. Auburn by 2 or 3. I think that their guards being so good offensively is an advantage to Auburn because their strength is their guards being great defensively. You got Javon McCormick, who at times last year was not very good defensively, but I think he's improved that. Samir Dowdy and Isaac Coro, we all know, is a great defensive player. So as long as those 3 guys can really step up on the defensive side, Auburn will be fine. They'll win by 2.
Yeah, I'll go Auburn by 4. I think it will be close. I'll be surprised if either team gets a lead of more than 8 points. I think it'll just be that close. If anybody gets blown out, I'll be very surprised from both teams.
So am I the most optimistic?
Yes.
Everybody about two or three, and then Jared with 4. Yep. I think about 7 or 8. All right.
Yeah. Oh, you did say you're going to be a homer.
I am a homer when it comes to Auburn. You know that, Jared.
I know that. With that being said, let's go ahead and head to a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll detail college football on the other side of the break. You're watching and listening to Extra Point here on WGL 911 and Eagle Eye TV.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep, and my dorky dad hat, and I'm gonna do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up. See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time.
What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
So you're giving up? Just like that?
Giving up on what?
On getting an inheritance from a distant relative.
Don't you think if there were a billionaire in the family, we'd know about it by now?
Listen to me. We are one phone call away from riding horses on our own private polo grounds. One call from christening yachts, having a butler, using summer as a verb.
How do you figure?
Look, everyone's got a rich uncle somewhere. It's statistics. So the best thing you can do is just prepare for the inevitable.
Right, which is why I thought maybe it would be smart to take control of my finances. You know, start using a budget, get out of debt, set some retirement goals.
Budgets? Debt? You watch your mouth. Retirement shouldn't be a goal for us. It should be a way of life.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Hey, look, Ma, I made it. Hey, look, Ma,
And welcome back inside the Extra Point here on WEGL 911 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dillon, joining me in the studio is Bay Marks, Javon Cutler, and Jacob Hillman. We got about 30 minutes ago in the Friday show, and we talked about a good bit, but we're heading to college football. And we talked about it a little bit in the first hour, and I just want to get your guys' opinions on the Chase Young situation at Ohio State.
Well, it's one of those things where the NCAA is going to get really attacked again because, I mean, it seems like – so here's the issue. He took a loan. He did it legally, maybe not legal to the NCAA, but the issue was a family friend. That's the whole – that is the, I guess, the language he's using. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know who this family friend is, but – he said it was a small loan to cover basic life expenses, and it was repaid months ago. So my thing is, if it's that simple, I don't get why this is a problem. That being said, the NCAA is the NCAA, and we don't know what in the world they're going to try to do with this. I mean, potentially they could have to vacate wins in the games that he played, but I'm just really not sure. I mean, with what's come out so far from Chase Young, I think it's kind of ridiculous to do this. Now, of course, they're playing Maryland, so they're not going to need him. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out the rest of the season because his draft stock is as high as it's going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, he's either going to go number 1 overall or he's going to go number 2 because the Dolphins take a quarterback. It's that simple.
Babe, what do you think about it?
I agree with Hillman for the most part. I mean, if it was to, like he said, cover basic life expenses, and it was a family friend.
It says a small loan.
Small loan, which probably
a few $100s, maybe?
Yeah, at the most a few $100s. I mean, being a college kid, like, I get that. Like, college kid needs some money sometimes for, like he said, basic stuff, food, gas, just to get home. I mean, for me, I drive a truck, and it takes me $60 to fill my truck up. So, I don't completely agree with the NCAA wanting to punish him for that. I think there's some gray areas in the story that I think it's possible the NCAA might be confused on, that they're trying to get caught up on, but I don't think he really should deserve the repercussions that the NCAA is probably planning on handing out to him. So, don't agree.
And once again, let me say, it's the NCAA, so expect this kind of stuff to happen, right? Going back to that story early before the season began, about the one player that tried to transfer to be closer to his mom, and NCAA was like, nah. It's the same organization. I just want to say that, right? So don't expect too much from the NCAA at this point. With that being said, let's talk about this weekend. Big games on the horizon, and we're kicking it off strong at 11 a.m. Number 4 Penn State goes on the road to number 17, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And Penn State is a 6.5-point favorite. And the funny thing is, Minnesota was asked if they wanted a night game for this. And they said simply, no. We want to play at 11 a.m. because I don't know if you guys have seen the weather in Minnesota. It ain't about to be good.
It's cold.
It is freezing.
I was talking about how Tuesday's going to be cold, but up there it's going to be really, really cold. Say that.
No, I was gonna say, do you remember years ago? This is when the Vikings stadium collapsed in, and they had to play at Minnesota, and they played a playoff game at Minnesota Stadium.
Oh yeah.
And one of the players came back with frostbite.
Yes,
that's how bad it is up there.
I am surprised at Minnesota because they have a new stadium now. Didn't build a dome. I'll be honest. I figured they would do something like that. I guess they want to use it to their advantage, which they truly did it to their advantage. They would have played the night game tonight, but it's one of those things where Big Ten rules are to play in the day because of the cold elements, and I guess they're just going to go with that. But I don't think, pertaining to the game, I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Minnesota just extended their coach after beating a bunch of nobodies.
PJ Fleck got the bag.
Penn State by 30.
Penn State by 30?
Yeah.
He said that on our show yesterday, and I made the point that I don't think it'll be that much of a blowout. I feel like Minnesota will probably come out with trying to prove something to everybody, like, hey, like, we belong in the elites, we're still undefeated. But I think Penn State probably wins it by about 3 scores. I think they strike early and it stays pretty moderate throughout the game. And then somewhere late, Penn State just takes command and walks out of there with victory.
I think it'll be somewhat close because it is an 11 a.m. game, and we all know 11 a.m. games aren't typically fast starting. They're going to try to get adjusted to each other, especially it's still going to be cold. I mean, it's supposed to be, I think, 40 degrees at kickoff, so it's still not going to be perfect temperatures, but I think both teams are going to try to figure each other out. Then Penn State pulls away, I'd say, in the third quarter, mid-third quarter, fourth quarter, but I think Penn State's going to win this game by 14 points. I think Minnesota is going to show a fight because they are at home. The crowd's going to get rallied around them, but Penn State's going to have too much, I think, offense, especially to overpower Minnesota.
Yeah, no, and I really do want Minnesota to win, but I don't know. I mean, they really have not played anybody. It's going to be tough. But, I mean, hey, 2007 always happened, right?
2007, like Jacob said the other day, was a crazy year.
So the CFB 150, they released their top 10 upsets, or top 11 upsets of all time, and like 6 of them were 2007.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the top 5, I think, were from 2007, and there was one at like number 9 or whatever. I mean, the year started off with Appalachian State beating Michigan, and then it just took off from there. Pitt beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl. When
Yeah, they
West
did.
Virginia was number 2.
Hey,
Notre Dame lost as well that year.
The Navy.
Y'all better watch out for Pitt. They're always primed and ready to upset anybody. I saw that list of top games. I think like the kick six came in at like 18 or something like that.
So
dumb, really dumb.
I think they did it that way because the top rivalry games, they did it specific games. So they had 2013 Auburn, Alabama. They had 2013 Auburn, Georgia, and they had like 2006 Michigan, Ohio State. So I think that they did that. Like, it's kind of dumb, but I think they did it because of that. They already had it at the top of the list. I don't get it, but yeah.
That's just, I guess, me being a homer. But with that being said,
No, I agree with you. It's definitely like a top 5 game of all time.
Yeah.
But I think the way they did it is, for whatever reason, they did it like that.
some other games going on this weekend, man. We talked about it yesterday on the show. You guys realize that Arkansas is a 1.5 point favorite at home against Western Kentucky?
I didn't realize that until Carter said something.
Yeah, and we usually go with the thought process that home field advantage is 2 points. Do the math. I mean, it pretty much went even. That's crazy. And I saw this stat about first year head coach, or I saw this stat browsing online yesterday, and it was worst winning percentage of head coaches since like the 1980s. And yeah, Chad Morris was, I believe, number 7 on that list.
Yeah,
it's bad.
I think they brought him in there, obviously, hoping to revive that program to what it was a few years ago before before they really got into the mix of SEC play, and they were up there for a few years. But it's really going downhill, and I know they just started building some new facilities within their football program, which is sad because of recruiting purposes. I'm really surprised that tickets are as high as $13 for this game, honestly.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd be lower. There is a game this weekend. I can't remember what game it is. We mentioned it the other day on the show. One ticket, it might have already passed, but one ticket
last night.
It was last night. It was Louisiana, Coastal Carolina.
Exactly.
It was $0.
Oh, and if you watched the game,
you understand why.
It was 31-0 at one point.
Yeah.
It was bad. But no, yeah. I mean, and there's funny enough, on that same list of coaches with horrible records at a school, do you know who else was on that list? All-Pro defensive coordinator Kevin Steele.
Oh, yeah.
And it's stint at Baylor, which did not end well.
This is why anyone who mentions
Kevin Steele being head coach,
I just shut it down.
Like,
I don't want to see that. I mean,
I think something isn't broke with his defense.
This is a completely different conversation that we shouldn't be having. But it's just, that is a reason that it shouldn't be happening. That's just part of it. So I'm not going to get into it because that's not what we're here to talk about.
I mean, that's fair. And people bring it up, and it's because he's done a great job with the defense, which he has, no doubt. Not many people know about his stint at Baylor, and those who do will say, well, that was 18 years ago, which I guess that's fair. Maybe he's learned some things since then. But, I think Kevin Steele's smart enough to where if he was a head coach somewhere, he will put the right guys around him to make that team better. I would be interested to see how it goes, right? But looking at that Baylor stat, even though it was 18 years ago, it does give me pause. Is that right or wrong? I'm not really sure, but that's just kind of how I feel about that. Other games from this weekend as we get into it, there's Stanford and Colorado, which for Stanford, I don't know what's going on with their season, sitting at 4-4. There's Kansas State and Texas. Kansas State number 16 in the nation. Watch out. The Wildcats are climbing, but Texas trying to prove that.
I picked Texas to win this game because I think it's kind of a must-win for them.
Oh, it is, because the moment if Texas goes into next week 5-4, or they fall to 5-4, I guarantee you there will be murmurs about Herman.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's right or wrong, because he got to a BCS game or New Year's Six game last year, right? And he won, and it was great. No matter what happened last year, if he gets to 5-4 this year, the talks will start, if it hasn't already started, and it probably already has.
Yeah, I'm also not sold on Kansas State. Yeah, they beat Oklahoma, but that's really the only impressive thing they've done so far this year. And I think they're a top 25 team right now, but I don't think they're 16. I think they're right at 25, and I think Texas will show us why.
And I also think a big thing for this weekend is Wake Forest. They're number 19 in the nation.
Hey, they're still in the college football playoff talk.
They are. They're 7-1. And the big thing for Wake is that I believe this is a tune-up game. And I say tune-up game not to overlook Virginia Tech and what they do, but you look at what's next for Wake Forest after this game.
At Clemson.
It's the showdown. It's win and you're in pretty much for that side of the bracket, that side of the division.
Yeah.
Because they're both in the same division. Whoever wins represents the
Atlantic.
Yeah, I'm about to say, what's the other side other than Coastal? We keep talking about Coastal. I didn't know what you called the other
The
side.
Coastal is the fun division.
Yeah, they're the fun guys.
The Atlantic is boring because Clemson dominates.
The ACC Coastal, the guys that die at the pregame but show up an hour later at the actual party, like, hey, what's up, guys? That's the Coastal. The Atlantic, they're just a straight-laced people. But no, that's going to determine the ACC Atlantic is that game between Wake and Clemson next week. That should be a lot of fun.
Well, my favorite thing is I click on Wake Forest, their team page, and the two things are the Frank Beamer holding his arms up when they're tied 0-0 going to overtime. What a game that was.
Yeah.
It was 5 years ago today. Or not today, but 5 years ago that it happened, which is crazy.
Hopefully we don't have a rendition of it this weekend.
I wouldn't mind it.
Not Wake Forest.
Unfortunately, no one's going to watch it because it's at 2:30?
Oh, I'm gonna.
I think there's another game on at 2:30 this weekend.
There's two other games on at 2:30.
There's some random 2 versus 3. Something about the president showing up. I don't know.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal. I mean, I got the multiple screen set up, so Wake Forest and Virginia Tech will be on somewhere. Now that I also have access to the ACC network, which thank you,
fancy.
Yeah, I'm getting fancy. But with that being said, let's go ahead and let's head to a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll finish up College Football Talk in Extra Point here on WGL 91.1 and Eagle Eye TV.
Would you rescue me when I'm by myself? When I need your love, if I need your help, would you rescue me? Would you rescue me? Would you rescue me? Would you get my back? Would you take my car when I start to crack? Would you rescue me? Would you rescue me?
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I improved my credit score.
You're kidding, right?
No.
How are we supposed to be the bad boys of electro-synth pop if you're out there being responsible? The band is about to be discovered. This is our year.
Yeah, you've been saying that for a while now.
You think anyone in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was worried about their credit score?
I never really thought that
Of course they weren't. Rock stars aren't supposed to think about that kind of stuff. We're supposed to think about how many guitars we've smashed, write aggressively sensitive power ballads, start questionable fashion trends, tragically break up and blame creative differences.
All right, I thought maybe it was time to take control of my finances, you know? Start using a budget, get out of debt, set some goals.
A budget? Debt? Set some goals? Listen, I knew that we'd have our creative differences, but I was hoping they'd involve a little more scandal.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman. Something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Can't keep me down.
And welcome back inside the Extra Point on WEGO 911 and Eagle Eye TV. Hello, everybody. Jared Dillon, and joining me in the studio is Bay Marks, Siobhan Cutler, and Jacob Hillman, as we have about 7-8 minutes to wrap up the show, talk about some college football. And, you know what, we'll go ahead and get into it. The big games of the weekend, number 2 versus number 3, Alabama versus LSU. And what pretty much is the winner represents the SEC West to take on what we all assume to be Georgia out of the SEC East. And the big thing is that we don't know Tua's situation, right?
He'll play.
We know he's working out. We know he's at practice. We don't know how well he'll move around on the field during game time.
Apparently, Gary Danielson watched practice yesterday.
Yeah, and we brought up what Gary said, and that
he said he doesn't have no spring in his step.
Yeah, which is, if you're an Alabama fan, that is a cause for concern.
I think last year, it's kind of funny. Last year he had the injured knee, and he ran over that 40-yard touchdown. I'm not sure if we're going to get that same injured Tua we did last year. So I'm still leaning towards Alabama. I think Tua can still make it work without a 100% Tua, which it seems like that's what Alabama's going to get. But I'm less confident in my pick.
I'll pick Bama. I picked them yesterday on the scoreboard, and I will stand true to that pick. I think Tua's going to play, or he'll definitely play to the extent maybe 80 or 90%. But really, Tua's arm this year compared to last year has been a lot more active. And that wide receiver core, I just don't think, despite LSU having a few key pieces in that secondary like Grant Delpit, I don't think that they can keep up with this Alabama wide receiving core, which in my opinion is the best in the nation now. LSU's wide receiving core is right up there with them. So Alabama's defense has their work cut out for them. And me and Jacob talked about it yesterday on the show. The team that wins this game is the first one to get to 30. This game will be, both teams will score over 30. It's just whoever gets there first. It's going to be high scoring. It's not going to be like 2011, the game of the century, where it essentially ended up being 9-6. It's going to be high scoring, and there's going to be a lot of fireworks.
And one last, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great game.
One last thing on Tua. Dennis Dodd from CBS just tweeted that Nick Saban told them he's a game time decision still, has short area quickness, can play well in the pocket, and it hasn't affected his throwing at all.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I think LSU is going to win this game because they have that sour taste in their mouth from last year, what Alabama did to them. I mean, 29-0 in Death Valley. Crowd was dead silent. And we're seeing a new improved Joe Burrow as well. And the key for him is the new passing game coach, Joe Brady, who came over from the Saints. So I'm sure he brought some of that Saints philosophy and NFL-style offense to LSU, and that's really transformed Joe Burrow's career because we didn't really think of Burrow much coming into the season. Like, he's just another LSU quarterback, kind of a game manager guy, won't lose the game for you. But now we're seeing a Joe Burrow who's able to put up big numbers. I mean, he has 30 touchdowns already. And Alabama's defense is not as strong as it's been in years past. I mean, they're only allowing 15 points per game, but traditionally strong Alabama defenses only allow like 10 points a game, 9 points a game, something around there. So I think that it will be a high-scoring game like everybody's kind of echoed. But I think LSU's going to come into Alabama's house, take advantage of a hobbled Tua, put a lot of pressure on him to throw the ball quickly, and I think LSU's going to come out with a really close win.
Yeah, and it's gonna be one of the. Hopefully, it doesn't end like 9-6, right? That's what we're hoping at this point. I think it'll be a really fun game to watch. I think that this weekend in college football, I think the next 2 weeks are gonna be really fun. You got your Minnesota, you got your Penn State, you got your Alabama and LSU. Obviously, next week there's some game here in Auburn that has to be played. Whatever. Georgia versus Auburn is next week, and on top of that, you have a couple of other games that have big implications. We're talking about Minnesota and Iowa. They got to play. You're talking about what was supposed to be a good game, Florida, Missouri. Notre Dame and Navy is now a top 25 matchup. Wake, Clemson. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys.
Oklahoma, Baylor.
There's Oklahoma, Baylor.
Don't overlook that.
I probably scrolled past that and didn't see it. Oh, there they are.
That's a huge game because Baylor this week, correct me if I'm wrong, plays TCU, which TCU took down Texas.
Yes.
So if Baylor can get through TCU and Oklahoma, Baylor's looking pretty good for maybe squeaking in a playoff spot.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's something people haven't been talking about.
And I think it goes back to, for Baylor, not as bad as Minnesota, but you look at Baylor's schedule and better than Minnesota, but it don't make you say ooh.
Yeah, they've just squeaked out some wins.
Yeah,
which could hurt them in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's why no one's really talking about them. No one's saying, well, if they go undefeated, they're gonna be in the playoff for sure. Because I think their resume isn't that strong. They haven't really blown out teams. They're going to need to have a strong finish to this season. Probably have a really strong showing in the Big 12 championship. This is assuming they win out. Because I don't really think many people are going to give them credit for what they've done so far.
And that's kind of one of those things, right? I don't think it's a UCF situation, but...
Yeah, it's a little bit different because these guys are actually in a Power 5 conference.
Yeah.
They play in the Big 12.
I mean, I guess to be fair, Baylor still does have to beat Oklahoma, which that'll be a good win for Baylor. And then they'll probably have to beat Oklahoma again, depending on who goes to the championship. We don't know right now. They did beat Texas, right?
They play Texas. Are you talking about Baylor?
Yeah.
Baylor plays Texas in 3 weeks.
Okay. And so they'll play Texas, which Texas is a weird one too because
it's at home, so that makes it a little less appeasing.
And if Texas loses this weekend, I mean, a 4-loss Texas isn't a great win anymore. It's decent. It's good, but it ain't great. Is there anything else we want to get into before we head out of here?
I mean, I do think this week and next week are probably going to be the two most important weeks to the college football playoff. I mean, I know the week after that is you have Penn State, Ohio State, but I'm not sure that's going to, I mean, it's kind of just, they're going to eliminate each other, and one of them is going to eliminate the other. And then the final, I mean, who knows? We might see some chaos, but I'm leaning towards not being a lot of chaos, to be honest.
There might not be. It may go out with a little bit of a whimper. You never know.
It's just the fact that there's several top 4 matchups that basically LSU or Alabama potentially will eliminate themselves. There's still hope for 2 SEC teams in the playoff, and then Penn State, Ohio State in a few weeks will eliminate the other.
Before we go, keys to my game tonight for the first round of playoffs. Helena's got to get Marquise Johnson going on the ground. And Clay Chalkville's undefeated on the road this season. So it's going to be a huge game tonight on the Hilltop. We got to defend home turf.
All right.
And Riley Marks has to continue to do his amazing holds and maybe a touchdown catch or 2.
That's your keys to the game for the Helena Huskies taking on the Clay Chalkville, whatever they are.
The Cougars.
The Cougars.
They're a traditional powerhouse.
I don't really care about them. I'm with the big boys in 7A where my team goes 2-8. All right, that's where I'm at.
What's the station's mascot?
Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
You can't say that.
Oh yeah, no, go Smith Station Panthers.
Yeah.
Let's make that a little more clear than some other Panther team.
All right. Well, with that being said, that did it for the show today. So thank you, Ben and Jacob, for joining me on the show. The scoreboard Thursdays at 4. You can always catch the podcast from yesterday's show on all of our social media platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. The whole 9 yards. Javon, Cutler, and Cruz, Tuesdays at 4. You'll be able to catch the Alabama LSU reactions Tuesday at 4. And on top of that, you'll be able to catch the Extra Point next week from 10 a.m. to noon, like you always do Monday through Friday. So for Javon Cutler, Jacob Hillman, and Ben Marks, I'm Jared Dillard saying thank you, and we will see you next week. That does it for the Extra Point here on WEGL 91.1 FM and Eagle Eye TV. Want to watch more? Catch replays of the Extra Point on Eagle Eye TV by going to eagleeyeauburn.com. You can also go to WEGL 91.1 FM YouTube page for full replays. Want to listen more? We have you covered. Tune in to Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud and search WEGL 91.1 FM for more of the Extra Point and other sports content. Stay up to date with the latest news and sports by visiting WEGLFM.com. The Extra Point, bringing you the X's and O's from around the plains of Auburn and around the world of sports. Auburn's best sports talk radio show, Auburn's only sports talk TV show. Watch and listen live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon. WEGL Sports, where every game lives.
I can't believe that it's Freaky Friday. It's Freaky Friday. I'm in Chris Brown's body. I drive his Ferrari and I'm like skin black.
Ring, ring. What the heck? I woke up and I'm Lil Dicky. Lil Dicky? What the heck? Man, this is real weak. How is staying perched up on his like that? Walking down the street and ain't nobody know my name. Whoa. Ain't no paparazzi flashing pictures, this is great. Whoa. Ain't nobody judging cause I'm black or my controversial past. I'ma go and see a movie and relax. Hey, I'm a blood, but I can finally